Tonight on the Black Channel, no one wanted to admit it, and now no one has a choice. The long-delayed Democrat 2024 autopsy, as I covered before, has been partially released. And boy, oh boy, so much of it confirms everything that you all have heard from us here for years. It also confirms everything that I predicted beforehand. We're going to be going over this rather meticulously here tonight. Although I don't think I can do it justice to do that unless we first check in with the old black media first. Before we go over the griot and everything they had to say there, I want to go to the old black media first. And that brings us to Rolling the Bowling Ball. Because, of course, you're not going to have a skewed, ridiculous take of it unless you call on him first. And he's going to go exactly where I've always told you all that he's going to go. You all can just guess what he's going to tell you is the real problem.
Folks, Democrat National Committee Chair Ken Martin faced tons of pressure to release the autopsy of the 2024 election. He initially said he wasn't going to do it, but they kept saying you must do so. So he did. The 192-page report outlines various issues that plagued the Democratic Party during the last presidential election. Some of the problems include messaging that created tensions with key constituencies regarding the economy, delays in organizing voters on the ground, and lack of alignment between the party's primary super PAC and then Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign. President Joe Biden and his political team, they were not spared. It also showed the massive amount of money that white Democratic strategists keep getting, and not a lot of black folks on the list. Ashley Etienne, former communications director of Vice President Kamala Harris, and Speaker Nancy Pelosi joins us right now in the studio. Glad to have you here. We talked about this here. You said that it needs to be released. And so what do you make of what they dropped?
Well, I think it's a complete failure of leadership on the part of Ken Martin. He had a choice. Instead of releasing a forward-looking document that laid out a strategy to address the bleeding support among black voters, the growing trust gap among black voters that we're seeing, to your point, you talked about the survey there. Instead, what he did was he released a report that was half-baked, that he critiqued. And he did it in order to save his ass rather than to actually lay out a vision for this party movement.
Damn! Oh, Miss Etienne, why don't you tell them what you really think? So, yes, indeed here, Redbone is coming in hot. Oh, she doesn't sound anything like Roland Martin. So Redbone is coming in hot. Miss Etienne is coming in here and throwing bolos. So I don't know where she was before the election. I don't know where this was then, but so far I haven't heard anything that I disagree with yet here.
Moving into the 2026 and the 2028 election to address some of the biggest, what I like to call the three alarm fire that we're seeing within the Democratic Party that's not being talked about again, which is that we're dealing with an identity crisis, we're bleeding support among our base voters, and we're not innovating in a way that sufficiently engages and mobilizes our key constituencies. That's why it's a failure, because Ken Martin made this whole report about Ken Martin. Meanwhile, democracy is failing. Meanwhile, black people are suffering the burdens of the failure of this particular party. 600,000 black women are out of a job, 8.5% unemployment, 400 years of black progress undermined in the last 2 weeks with the gutting of the VRA. He owes us an explanation as to how the money was spent.
600,000 black women, also 800,000 black men.
Absolutely.
Both those numbers are up. So
okay, thank you, because Miss Etienne, you want to hear about identity crisis? That's a problem when you do that kind of garbage. And it took Rolling the Bowling Ball to check you on that. What you just did right there, ma'am, that's the problem. So you've gone from articulating the problem to being a part of the problem. Just that quickly. I know, working around Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris, you all think that, you know, the world is just for ovarians. But by the way, you just betrayed right there exactly what the damn problem is. So I don't know, maybe you and Ken Martin can both go to the same therapy session to figure out exactly what's really going on. That was a super bad look. You know, like I said, you were doing all right, and then it's like you get there, it's like, okay. Car crash. Typical Democrat feminist garbage. She's not concerned about black people. Just, I need all the black folk to get together for the women. Really? Okay.
The money was spent.
There's 600,000 black women, also 800,000 black men.
Absolutely.
Both those numbers are up, so we can't ignore that. But here's the deal here, and this is what also jumps out. What you just laid out, true. But what you also have seen, though, are Democrats that have been winning elections all across the country.
Sure.
So the problem is the positioning as if the party's on fire, but when you look at these individual races, they've been winning.
Sure.
And I think this is where the disconnect is. There's a difference between national party. There's a difference between national party. When you start talking about presidential, Senate, and House, and then we start talking about local races, mayoral races, state races, where Democrats have been winning. And so those candidates have been crafting their own messaging, doing things their own way. So you got to explain, how Democrats have been winning seats, picking up seats that Trump won,
Sure.
but then what is being said nationally. That's two different stories being told.
Absolutely. And so if you read the report, if you read between the lines of the report, what it says is that we have been winning elections despite the strength of the Democratic Party, despite the strength of its message, despite the strength of its infrastructure, that really what we're seeing is Republicans are losing elections. We're not winning elections. The Democratic Party now is polling at 28%. The lack of confidence within the Democratic Party is striking.
But hold on. I got to stop you there.
But let me make one more point, though, Roland.
That's national.
Okay, but let me make one point.
So the polling is really how they feel about Schumer and Jeffries.
Okay, y'all, if Roland don't sit down looking like a Tim Horton sign. What? Well, shut up and let Redbone talk for a little bit there. She might be able to dig herself out of this credibility gap she just made, but Roland just wants to keep talk about a nigga with nothing to say, and yet he insists on filibustering.
And not local.
So when I talk about the black community suffering the burdens of the failure of this party, it's national. What we're seeing right now, the 600, 800,000, 8.5% unemployment, VRA, that's a national issue.
Right.
So it still matters nationally. The other reason why—
Okay, Roland, your lavalier mics are going out bad. You need to have somebody go over there and go plug her cable back in. While you sitting up talking, you need to go ahead and take care of that.
Why it matters is your viewers have to understand that this is a business, okay? It's an $8 billion business annually, and black folks get less than 1% of that money.
Yes.
So we're not investing in building black political power, which is why you're seeing the bleeding of black support, which is why black men are voting for an all-out races in double-digit numbers. We're also not innovating. We're not making investments in black media. We're not making investments in black influencers and black consulting firms. We're not making those types of investments that would equal out to better electoral outcomes for black people.
Huh. Well, Miss Etienne may have a point there. We're talking about influencers. Because over here in the new black media, the Democrat Party has declared war on us. The Democrat Party has not come to us with hat in hand the way that Donald Trump did to Theo Vaughn, Joe Rogan, all those other folk over there. So the Democrat Party has declared war on the new black media social influencers. They have not been apathetic. They have not been neutral. They have been openly hostile. They send out their little gutless tether shills on social media, on Twitter and everywhere else to attack us. They're AstroTurf activists, these bought and paid for people. That's what they've been spending their money. Those are the influencers they spent their money on. Remember, we covered all this back in 2024, remember? They got together a whole bunch of weirdos on YouTube wearing fluorescent colored clothes. What? Remember, those were the influencers that they wanted. A bunch of people dressed like neon signs, looking like they just came from a college feminist reading group. Those were the, quote, influencers that the Democrats, quote, invested in. So, Miss Etienne, they did spend money. I got proof of that. They did spend money, and they spent it on YouTube, and they spent it online. But when you take a look at what the hell it was a damn sideshow. So it wasn't that they didn't spend anything, they did. Don't worry, we'll get to Roland and what they spent on him here in just a moment, because he's going to start explaining and trying to defend himself.
So wherein we might be winning locally, we're failing nationally, which is having the biggest impact on black people.
Right, but this is the whole point.
And so we have to focus on that.
I understand that.
We should never let the party off the hook.
I'm not letting them off the hook.
Yeah.
But here's how I see when we look at these things.
Sure.
There's a difference between what regular and ordinary people are saying, doing out there, and then what's being said in D.C. and New York.
Absolutely.
It's a totally different deal.
Absolutely.
And so anytime I see those polls, anytime I see the dude on CNN, he's like, oh my God, look at Democratic polling numbers. And then you go, but they won this mayoral race, they won this county commissioner race, they won this state race, they won this state race. And so what I think is happening is, look, every time I talk to Nikki Fried, her whole deal is, okay, whatever y'all doing in D.C., go right ahead.
Sure.
We're going to execute a different strategy here. And I think what you've seen are folks say, we're not getting the leadership that we think are deserving from national, so we're going to run this the way we think we should run it.
Well, I'll be damned, Roland. Well, then why are you on our backs complaining at us if that's the situation right there? If we said, you know what, hey, we're not going to vote blue no matter who, and we're going to vote for the couch and only vote for candidates who are actually moving forward and progressing our issues, well, then to hell with the White House then. Now, all of a sudden, Roland is saying that's a great idea. Well, he's only been condemning us now for a decade. But remember, he doesn't get money from the local guys running for mayor. What? So there's the part I want y'all to understand. The reason why he's talking out of both sides of his forked tongue is because, well, he's talking about a mayor's race here and a county commission seat there. Yeah, but those folk ain't putting no money in his pocket. So he's not really stomping for their interest for Kamala Harris. Oh, that's going to be do or die. Well, yeah, because she dropped the bag for him. So right now he's literally arguing against himself.
Hold on. So what should be happening, national Democrats should be, I believe, listening more to to what is working in different places.
I'm tired of him filibustering.
The mistake that I keep seeing, if we talk about narrative, they are allowing national media to craft the narrative that Mamdani is the future of the party. And I go, well, he won in New York, but the brother won in Cleveland.
Sure.
The brother won in Georgia. The brother won in Birmingham. So there were other mayors who were elected beyond him. But
is he comparing New York City to Birmingham? I'm asking for a friend.
National media, cable news shows and broadcasts craft this whole thing as if, oh, it's all Mamdani. And I'm like, but it's not. And they're like, yeah, but he's the mayor of New York City. I'm like, yeah, but the mayor of Atlanta counts. The mayor of Cleveland counts. The mayor of Birmingham counts. And so I think what we are seeing are grassroots people saying, you know what? We can't wait on y'all anymore.
Absolutely.
The mayor of Atlanta is not grassroots. The mayor of Birmingham, maybe. The mayor of Cleveland is not grassroots. Those are hardcore, staunch Democrat operatives. Roland Martin isn't even a good liar. He's not even a good liar. And I'm not expecting Miss Etienne to check him on that. But he's not even a good liar in what he's saying right now.
We got to do our own thing. And that's what I think, what I see happening.
Okay, so can I just say this? Because, you know, I've been doing this for 25 years. What we're seeing as it relates to black people.
Why they all come out looking like Valerie Jarrett? I mean, they kind of all go the same place there. So it's just, I'm not dissing anything. I'm just saying, well, wherever they're going to go get their light skins from, they all got the same haircut and it's just something like that.
And investments in black people is the same issues on the ground as we're seeing at the national level.
Oh, yeah.
A disinvestment in taking black voters for granted.
Well, you see it right here. This is the numbers. Pull a graphic on my iPad. We see it right here.
Roland, be careful with that iPad. Yeah, Roland trying to bring up the iPad. Oh, wait a minute now. Parental discretion is advised. you don't know what might pop up on the iPad. So, hey, Roland, you got a lady in the house. You have a lady in the house, Roland. So check that iPad before you just go jumping up, blowing things up on the Jumbotron. So I'm just letting y'all know I'm freezing it for a moment for us to wait. Parental discretion is advised. Before we go to his iPad, parental discretion is advised.
The racial gap, the racial voting gap, is at its widest in 30 years.
Absolutely.
So anybody looking at this chart, and I've shown this numerous times, and you see it right here, right there, you see black or white voters, blue or black voters. And you see right there in 2008, 2012, in 2012, black voters voted at a higher rate than white voters. But then when you look at 16, 20, and 24, you see how it drops in 16?
Yes.
A steep drop. It goes back up in 20. That was largely because of COVID and the expansion of how people access the ballot.
All right, when you take a look at this chart here, folks, what do you see? From 1996, you see that bump in 92. So who was president? Bill Clinton, the so-called first black president. He's sitting on Arsenio Hall playing the saxophone. For those of you who were not there, not old enough or whatever, it was a bellwether moment, can't lie. But Bill Clinton, 1992, and then you see this thing keeps going straight up through Barack Obama, and then it peaks when? The 720 degrees of analysis that Roland Martin will never present to you, because at that point right there, you will start turning on the Democrats, which is exactly what's occurred. 2012, people, what happened? The murder of Trayvon Martin, the murder of Mike Brown, the murder of Eric Garner. This is when that begins to happen. And as the years went on from 2012 to 2016, well, what do you know happens? Take a look at the chart. Now, we are a decade later. And I want to remind all of you who have been making this great and mighty walk with us. Shout out Dr. John Henry Clark. For those of you who have been making this great and mighty walk with us now for the last decade, if you'll all remember, I've been telling you all, if you are waiting for the cable, national cable, corporate media, corporate news to tell you what the data really is and what's really happening, you will be confused and bamboozled and deceived the whole time. I've told you all, I'm right on top of it. Here we are a decade later, and what are they now? What are they finally admitting? Folks, a decade later, not 2 or 3 years later, a decade later, the support fell off a cliff. Right after Barack Obama became the black face of white supremacy, running interference for the murder of black people everywhere and doing nothing about these deputized white supremacists murdering black people all over the country, his support fell off. Roland Martin claimed that wasn't the case. The DNC claimed it wasn't the case. MSNBC claimed it wasn't the case. The Griot and The Root and Angela Rye and any other jackass who would speak, they all claimed that this wasn't happening, that we were irrelevant. We were just some small little jaded corner out there. We had no effect on anything, and certainly no one agreed with us. Certainly no one agreed with us. And now take a look at it a decade later. Now that they've gotten themselves beaten into the concrete, now they're saying, yeah, it happened just the way Jason told you it was. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, it sure was. We tried to play dumb. We tried to ignore it. We tried to act like that didn't hurt. They chopped off your leg. They chopped off your arm. That didn't hurt. And now, a decade later, they were hoping that we would fizzle out. I said this a decade ago. They were hoping it would fizzle out. They were hoping that we were just venting. They were hoping that the next election, okay, everybody jump back into place. They were hoping that that would occur, and it didn't. And I want to remind you all right now that when you take a look at this graph, take a look at where the numbers were in 2016 for the black vote. That blue line here, Take a look at where that point was there, and then take a look at about where it is from 2024. That was 2 years ago. You take a look when the Democrats got their heads beaten in 2016, and then take a look at where this thing is clearly pointing to now. You don't have to have a PhD in these things to be able to interpret the information and to be able to interpret it properly. You do have to be an honest individual who is not simply a cardboard cutout or a puppet or a shill of these political parties to be able to properly interpret what you're seeing. I have done my best to properly interpret these things for you all to project going forward where we're going to end up. So when Joe Biden won in 2020, I told all of y'all, oh, hang on just a moment. And there's nobody today who thinks that Joe Biden in 2020, that the best thing for the Democrats was Joe Biden winning. 4 years later, nobody thinks that Joe Biden winning in 2020 was a good thing. Forget losing in 2024. No one thinks that him winning in 2020 was a good thing. They're now saying they wish somebody else had gotten it, which is exactly what I told them. They would have buyer's remorse to an epic level, and they all claim that wasn't true. Now there's nobody arguing it. So if you're waiting for your cable television corporate news puppets to give you accurate information, you will literally be a decade behind, because they're never going to tell you the truth in real time. And they're only saying it now because they have no choice. But it isn't because they want you to be informed. Not a damn decade later. So to all of you who've been walking with us all this time, when I told you then that Obama's support was cratering, and don't let the fact that the corporate media and the internet media isn't saying this, this is what it is. Well, folks, did I call it or did I call it?
And deal with it.
And then you see the tremendous drop in 2024. Mm-hmm. That right there. So for African Americans, for white voters, it is, last election is around 70%. You see right there with black voters, it fell just under 60%. The reality is that gap cannot continue if Democrats can expect to win. And Latino gap is even further lower than ours. They were at about 55% in 2020. They dropped down to 50% in 2024.
So can I say there's a direct...
Okay, you take a look at the so-called Latino gap there. Once again, if you're listening to corporate puppets from cable news where Roland used to be, you will never get accurate information. You're looking at the data, and he's going to be telling you all the wrong things. First of all, when you take a look at the numbers here for Latino, you take a look at that. You take a look at those numbers. And what you notice here is that as the black numbers are going down, the Latino numbers are going up. But what did I tell you going back to 2016? Take a look at where they were in 96. And then you take a look at where they were in 2016. And for those of you who listen to this program, if you were here a decade ago, you remember that this was the only news outlet on the planet that went state by state, go back through my archive, went state by state telling you which states that Trump was going to win and why he was going to win it. I told you Pennsylvania, I said, you do know that he has his degree from the Wharton School of Business. Pennsylvania, he gonna get that. And then there was Florida with everybody, all the Pan-Africanists, rest in peace. Damn! All the Pan-Africanists who were telling all of us that Latinos were black. All the Pan-Africanists from Texas and Florida who were telling us that Latinos were black and Latinos saw themselves as black. Long before we got to delineation, this microphone was telling you all what the truth was. And I said, in Florida, those Latinos see themselves as white. So any moronic Pan-African dope-smoking jackass tries to tell you that Latinos are really black, they know they really black. I'm like, okay, they about to teach your silly ass something. You haven't heard from those clowns since, have you? Yeah, the Pan-Africanists who were telling us that the Latinos in Florida were really black. They know that they're black. They ain't gonna vote for no Trump. They know they black. I sat here and told all of y'all those will be the people voting for him because their lineage has a history of respecting the Anglo strongman. They come from places where the white strongman is a symbol of status and power, and they respect that. And I said, and Florida is about to teach you that that's exactly where they are. And that's what happened 2 times now. While Roland Martin was telling all of you that Florida was going purple.
Nigga, what?
Yeah, y'all. Remember, Roland been telling folks that Florida is going purple. Yeah, he won't open his mouth to say that tonight, but he was trying to tell you Florida was going purple. Democrats gonna flip Florida. Andrew Gillum, you know. How'd that work out? So once again, if you don't hold him accountable, there's a reason why he won't take calls. There's a reason why he's talking over this woman here and whatnot. It's like, yeah, desperate to hold on to it, dude. Desperate.
About 55% in 2020. They dropped down to 50% in 2024.
So can I say there's a direct correlation between where the Democratic Party invests its money? To your point, you made the point about white consultants running away with all the money. There's speculation that decisions were made in the last cycle to line people's pockets rather than win the election. A good example of that. Decisions were made to put money on television, which we know, again,
broadcasting cable, linear, as opposed to digital and on the ground to do massive get out the vote.
And the reason why is because people at the highest level got kickbacks from putting the money on television.
Well, for people who don't understand the game, those consultants, their fees come.
Well, Miss Etienne, I think that's a great and wonderful thing you just said there. My only issue is if you worked for Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris, why the hell are we just now hearing this now? Why hasn't all this been explained before? I mean, y'all had years and years to say this because this is going on decades long, but why hasn't this been explained before, man? I'm asking for a friend. Not throwing accusations, ma'am, just yet. But by the way, if you all know this, why are we just now hearing it now that everybody's on the outs and the money done dried up? Now it can be spoken. Now it can be said. Now it can be admitted. Now it can. If it's been true the whole time, why are we just now saying all this?
Is because people at the highest level got kickbacks from putting the money on television.
Well, for people who don't understand the game, those consultants, their fees come from media buys. They don't get the same fees if you're putting it on the ground
in Philadelphia to turn out black voters.
So the strategists, what they do is they tell campaigns, no, TV radio, TV radio, because that's where they make their money.
So my point is there's a direct correlation between who's making the money, who's making the decision, and black electoral outcomes.
Oh, yeah.
There's a direct correlation. And so my point is we've got to do exactly what Vice President Harris said recently when she was at NAN. She said that black voters need to become more transactional. And I firmly believe that. And so in this moment,
Nigga, what?
black voters need to become more transactional and black electoral outcomes.
Oh, yeah.
There's a direct correlation. And so my point is we've got to do exactly what Vice President Harris said recently when she was at NAN. She said that black voters need to become more transactional. And I firmly believe that.
All right, y'all. Well, Redbone is spitting, but baby, you about 2 decades late on this right here, because folks, we've been saying that since day one, and she is literally sitting across the table from a red pinstripe spud who's been telling us that our vote should not be transactional. Ma'am, the fella you sitting there trying to get a word in edgewise over, he has been attacking us now for over a decade because we have insisted no reparations, no vote.
And deal with it, nigga.
We want tangibles. And he has spent all this year attacking us and saying we need to quit talking about tangibles, that we need to vote Democrat first and then demand tangibles at some undetermined date in the future. But vote Democrat first, even if you're getting nothing. That we need to vote Democrat in order for there to even be a conversation at some undetermined date in the future. So no, ma'am, Roland has specifically attacked us, which is why he's quiet now. He's been talking all the other rest of the time. He ain't flipping the lip now because he's been the number one person demanding that our vote should come with no expectations other than, well, you ain't voting for Trump, ain't that good enough? So he has directly demanded that our vote not be transactional, that we're the problem. Trump gonna win. Y'all gonna let MAGA win because you're demanding something for your vote. Don't you see Trump's the greater problem? He's the greater evil. It doesn't matter what Democrats ain't doing. You need to save the Republican. Don't let Trump in. Even if you get nothing, well, you'll get the satisfaction of knowing Trump ain't getting in. So, ma'am, I'm so glad to hear that, according to you, Kamala Harris has all of a sudden become a devotee to getting something for your vote, that your vote is a transaction, in the words of Dr. Claude Anderson, quid pro quo, this for that. That if I'm going to vote, I'm supposed to be getting something for it, and that something needs to be clearly defined. Now, I don't just vote on hoping and wishing. That your vote is a transaction, this for that, quid pro quo. And this is the first time, folks, I say again, I know it's been a long time coming, Crosby, Stills, Nash. I know it's been a long time coming. For those of you who've been making this great and mighty walk now for over a decade, going on 2 decades with me, we were the only ones saying this. I've never put this at my feet. I'm just the messenger. All of you are the message I came to bring. And the message that you all are is that you demand change and something for our vote. You all remember 10 years ago, we were the only ones saying this. The old niggas were still sitting around telling us that we just need to vote blue no matter who, while they sat on their damn government pensions and job pensions, funking up the block. We were the only ones who were saying this, and a few elder scholars besides us, but we were the only ones saying this. And I'm beating this drum to remind you all, what is she conceding here? They've known the whole damn time. They didn't just wake up and suddenly figure this out in 2026. They've known the whole damn time what our problem was, what our issue was, what we wanted. And what they've been doing is fighting and maneuvering to try to stop us. Yes, we know exactly what you want, and we're spending our billions of dollars to figure out ways that we can stop you and circumvent you and evade you and neutralize you. But it wasn't because they didn't know. In 2007, Barack Obama was speaking just like Jason Black. They know exactly what we want. The whole game is get us in power so that we can stop you and put an obstacle in front of you. But they're admitting here, they know. They've always known. And they know now. When they sit down with us, why are they not running on that as their campaign platform? That, hey, before you vote for us, here's what you're going to get. Need I remind you all, Barack Obama sat his damn blow pop head ass up there talking about black men need to support Kamala Harris, not because of anything Kamala Harris has done, but that we all need to support her because of his legacy.
Nigga, what?
Remember? He didn't give us any accolades or any justification from her. He's talking as if we owe him something. We don't owe you a damn vote, Obama. The only thing we owe you is an indictment. And he sat there telling us about what we owe him. But he did not say a word about, and here's what she's going to do for you. Everything was, you need to vote for her because Trump bad and you owe me. The only thing we owe Barack Obama is a tombstone pile driver. Damn! So they have been very, very consistent that we're not supposed to ask for anything and damn sure not supposed to demand it. And we're just supposed to be grateful that we have a chance to vote Democrat and that's the only thing required of us. If you all agree with that statement, give me the hammer emoji in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. It's over 3,600 people in here live right now, but folks ain't liking the program. I guess I got a bunch of Roland Martin listeners up in here. But if you all agree that we've been saying this for over a decade and what they're now doing is admitting that we were right the whole time, give me the hammer emoji in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. If folks don't like the program, I'll let y'all listen to Roland Martin. But after all these years, here they are admitting that, yeah, what we've been saying the whole time, that's correct. Now they're talking about demanding something for your vote. Now they're saying it. Well, hell, we've been the only voices in the wilderness now going on 2 decades. They weren't with us. Nobody had our backs. Nobody was backing us up. Nobody was telling the Democrats, you know what, Kamala? Yeah, it's real nice that you want to run for president. And I don't know if you're black, Asian, Swahili, or whatever. But yeah, we need to discuss what the hell we're going to get. Before we discuss supporting you, you first have to convince us what we're going to get. And it's only now that she's saying, Kamala Harris is saying the vote needs to be transactional. That's interesting because that wasn't what she said when she was running, and that wasn't what Barack Obama and the other surrogates were saying. Nobody was telling us that we needed to demand something for our vote before we hand a vote over. This is the only place that was saying this before now. The new black media was the only place you heard this before now. And what they're admitting is that the political structure and their media puppets, hello, Roland, they've known the whole time their job was to mislead us and detour us and distract us. But don't let it be about that. There are other folks out there who are screaming and crying and whining in their beer. The griots at the top of that list. Whole bunch of folks didn't get what they thought they were going to get. Whole bunch of people did not get what they thought they were going to get. I'm going to briefly go over that article here. I'm not going to give you the whole thing here. You can go look it up if you want to. As your anchorman of the new black media, I'm bringing you all the news fit to print, just the parts you really need. I've reviewed this so you all don't have to be tormented in doing it. You're welcome. DNC autopsy report vindicates Kamala Harris.
Nigga, please.
Okay, that's actually not what happened at all. Exposes party's black infrastructure problem, critics say. So there are critics who say there's a black infrastructure problem. That's very interesting because none of them were saying this before now. We are the only people who said that the Democrats have a black problem, remember? Folks, we're the only ones who said that. Roland Martin said the Democrats don't have a black problem, that all the old niggas are going to vote for Biden and everything's going to be fine. Nobody was saying the Democrats had a black problem before we did. We've been saying this now going on decades. Even when those charts seem to indicate that the Democrats had the black vote sewn up, we've been saying the whole time that that's not what the future is going to be. The future is here. It's totally changed it. But these folks now are talking about there's a black problem. That's very interesting because the griot and the root, none of them have ever said there was a black problem with the Democrats. Where'd this suddenly come from? Because you weren't talking like this before now. It says here that as National Democrats process the fallout of the Democratic National Committee's autopsy report released Thursday, black Democratic strategists say that the report, intended to explain why Kamala Harris lost the 2024 presidential election to President Donald Trump, somewhat vindicates the former U.S. Vice President. Somewhat? Who in the hell writes this stuff? And exposes a party's sin by not adequately investing in a black infrastructure to win elections. Okay. What I'm going to do, I'm going to skip down through all of this here because that's not really important. Let's jump down to when they finally, buried in their article, is allegedly a black infrastructure problem. The Democrat Party's black infrastructure problem, what's not mentioned in the report as it relates to the party's investments in black communities, is most troubling, black Democratic strategists tell the Griot. During the 2024 presidential cycle, Democrats fretted over polling that showed that the party was bleeding support among its black voters, namely black men. Damn! Miss Etienne, let me get a good picture of you here. Miss Etienne, are you listening right now? I need to make sure that we correct this permanently. Whatever this character flaw is, we're going to correct this permanently. Are you listening, Redbone? I say that as a term of endearment. Your name's Etienne. I'm from Louisiana. You know the drill. But, yes, ma'am, are you listening? Yeah, not black women, black females, and no, they're telling you, when you read the reports, like, by the way, yeah, we focus on the women, and that's not what's going to cost you this election. So, pay attention. While the DNC autopsy acknowledges there were, quote, dramatic drops in support among young black men and admits that massive media investments were not matched by robust organizing, resulting in lower turnout, it failed to provide any details about how the party invested or did not invest in building a political infrastructure to mobilize disenchanted black voters. Man, they marched Barack Obama's lame, lanky ass out there. That's what they did. Ashley Etienne.
Damn!
Okay, there you are, Miss Etienne. She's making the rounds. Okay. Ashley Etienne tells the Griot that black strategists and operatives, quote, don't share in the power nor the resources, and that, quote, decisions were made to line people's pockets and not win an election. Based on her own review of the billions of dollars spent, Etienne said she, quote, couldn't even find a black firm that was listed in the report's financial breakdowns. Quote, why give money to white firms to talk to black people? Why keep putting money on television and not investing in black media where we know we actually are? She lamented. Quote, why not do what Republicans are doing, which is invest in building a new infrastructure information ecosystem that includes black influencers to turn out and engage black voters? So I actually agree with a fair amount of what Miss Etienne has to say here. I actually agree with a fair amount of it. Hopefully she doesn't roll around with rolling so much that she starts taking stuff personally here. But Miss Etienne, I actually agree with a fair amount of what you said here. I think this is all right up, dead on the money, dead on the nose, right up the alley. So far, I don't have an issue with it. However, I think the party you're working in definitely does. Because, folks, when you're talking about the media here, please understand, we saw where the Democrats were spending money. They were spending on LGBT podcasters with 50 views. What? You want to talk about a waste of money, Miss Etienne? A waste of money? I don't know if the television money was a waste of money. I do know spending money on YouTubers who had 50 views. The overweight chick with the fluorescent outfit on with 100 views. That's where your damn money went. But B1 and the Black Channel is public enemy number one. So those chicks over there, that's not a waste of money and resources. I don't know if the television and radio ads were, but them chicks, that wasn't a waste of resources because we know they got paid. That was money well spent. But over here, we're public enemy number one. Okay. All right. The autopsy acknowledges that the party waits too late and too long to spend its money, something Etienne emphasizes is a consistent failure regarding black and brown communities.
Oh my God, bro. Oh, hell no.
She said the party engages black voters at the 11th hour in highly transactional ways. Okay, we need to get this transactional word straightened out. expecting them to turn out and save the party without having funded meaningful two-way engagement earlier in the cycle. Michael Hardaway said black consultants and media figures like Roland Martin should have been invested in by the campaign with real dollars. Are you kidding me?
Nigga, please.
Folks, all I'm saying is that this is the advice, because here's the problem, folks. The problem is you already did this. You already did this. You already gave money to Roland Martin. It didn't move the needle in 2016, 2018, 2020, 2022, 2024. Roland Martin is a bum steer. This isn't a matter of do more of the same damn thing that's failing. Roland doesn't have a following. He doesn't have any influence. All he has are all the baby boomers. That's his audience. He's lost the future. The future is over here. The young folk are over here. The energy is over here. And you all are talking about throwing horrible money after bad. You threw your good money after bad. Now it's horrible money. He doesn't have anything. You already tried this. Y'all have already given Roland money. There is no return on that investment, except for him to say you should have gave him more. You could give Roland Martin $1 billion. It's not a matter of you're not properly funding him. He doesn't have an audience. The audience that matters isn't listening to him, and every day it gets smaller. So what they're insisting on is a strategy that's already doubling down on a strategy that's already failed. Think about that for a few moments. They think, oh, we need folk like Roland Martin. Where's Roland Martin's wins? Roland Martin was stomping his big ass off for Kamala Harris. Where are his wins? Where are his victories? What did he spin around? Michael Hardaway said black consultants, media figures like Roland Martin should have been invested in by the campaign with real dollars, telling the griot, quote, I'm not talking a couple $100,000 when you raise $1.5 billion and you actually want black people to come out. You should invest serious money into the people that are influential with black voters in the places where black voters go, and that didn't appear to happen. As if Roland Martin's got pull where black voters are. If it ain't the Essence Festival, ain't nobody listening to him. And this picture right here tells you everything. This right here. This picture right here. This is it. Black men at Philly Cuts barbershops. This is the problem, right? Y'all, she's wearing blue jeans with these boots. I'm not the fashion police, but I'm just saying blue jeans with these boots. Come on, man. You've been hanging out with Doug too damn long. You're not going to convince any of us that you're around black folk and this is the dress code. With that other purple pantsuit. Y'all, she wants you to believe that she hangs around black folk and yet this is the dress code. I literally cannot think of a single black woman that I have seen in 20 years with this particular ensemble here. I literally can't think of it. The only thing would have been worse is if she was wearing her Chuck Taylors. What? That would have been the only thing worse. So I'm just saying, who's dressing this woman? Who's in charge of this? And then these fellas over here cheesing. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a winning strategy. All right. Okay. Joel Payne, who served as a black outreach director for the 2016 presidential campaign of Hillary Clinton, argued that black voters, particularly black men, were a, quote, convenient scapegoat to blame for Harris's 2024 loss, rather than addressing the systemic failure to properly resource and engage them. You messed around and found out. You can listen to the feminists tell you that you need to focus on women. You can listen to that and get your ass kicked. Go ahead and do that. Still, Payne noted, quote, there's obvious ample evidence now that Donald Trump's marginal growth in some populations of black voters, particularly black men, was not the difference in this race. Okay. you can whistle past the graveyard if you want to. Antoine Seawright argues that historically the Democratic Party, quote, wants our output but certainly does not want our input when it comes to black Americans. Who've been saying that forever with Roland Martin telling us shut up and vote. He states that the party has consistently failed to prioritize its most loyal and dedicated voting bloc, treating black voters as an expense rather than a true investment. I certainly think the Democratic Party owes its most loyal constituency as black voters to invest more, spend more, and prioritize more across the board, and that includes having black decision makers with budgets in the room and positions that don't include political director and African American outreach director, said Seawright. Yeah, man. Folks, they're taking it on the chin out here. It's rough. They're taking it on the chin out here. It is rough. It is brutal. You're not able to sit up here and play around about it as much as you wish to there. You're having to hit some hard damn reality in the face. You're listening to your old Democrat spin doctors who told you that they knew the code. And the only thing that they're doing is the same damn thing they do every election cycle. Roland Martin is demanding you give him more money. Let me explain something, Bowling Ball Martin. If I give you $300,000, you should be able to bring me $500,000 or $1 million worth of results. You literally cannot show where you gained any results anywhere for any reason for any amount of money. You don't move the needle. You are in full televangelist mode. All you do is money beg. Every time an election cycle comes up, you start begging for money. What you don't do is say, and here are my results. So that's the game that you're playing within the Democrat Party, is making them a source of revenue for you. But what you don't have are any wins, and you don't have any influence, and ain't nothing moved. There's the problem. However, folks, I'd like to go even further with it. I want to go even further with it because you've heard from the griot, you heard from Rolling the Bowling Ball here. What I want to do is show you all the actual report here. I want to show you the actual report and what the report said so that you all can hear for yourselves and see for yourselves what they were talking about. Because according to Roland and them, they claim they had the inside track. Well, I'm like, I want y'all to hear what the report had to say for itself. There are some key excerpts I want to go into. Some key excerpts I want to get into. Because remember, these folks were telling y'all that the future was the baby boomers and the future was the old folks. And remember, they were telling us that was going to be the future. We don't need y'all loud young folks. Y'all don't matter. Go sit your ass on the couch. We're going to win without you. All right, we'll get back to winning without us. Now they're begging. Now they're begging. That didn't go so well. So what we're going to do, man, we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. We're going to go ahead and review that. You've heard about the report. Now it's about time that you actually heard what was in it. And not just what you heard from other folks giving excerpts and giving their interpretation. I want you all to hear what it actually said. And we are going to do that. Before we do, I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, Super Chat, Venmo. Shout out to my man, Mr. Richburg. Thank you very much for your support tonight here, brother. We appreciate that. To Sandra. I'm so glad she's around here. We appreciate that. To Karen, to Keenan, Beverly White, J-Bo Diesel, Tom Slick. You know who you are. You know how it is. Cameron, Walter, everybody else here, thank you very much for your support here tonight. For all of you here supporting the real black media, that the old black media is now begrudgingly conceding that we were right the whole time. They were denying it. They were ignoring it. And now they're admitting, yeah, y'all B1 people, you were correct the whole time. The wheels came off the wagon. when we saw after Barack Obama was reelected, we weren't going for the bull crap no more, and the wheels began coming off the wagon right then. And it's a decade later that they're letting you know if you're still running around kissing Obama's ass, it's like, dude, folks checked out on him a decade ago. They've been trying to convince you that everybody still supports him and everybody still loves him, and we're showing you the numbers. Nope, that train left the station years ago. Now that they have to admit the love affair with Obama been dead, they just don't want to talk about why it died. But the love affair been dead, and Kamala Harris paid the price. That was Barack Obama's ass whooping, and Kamala Harris paid the price for it. So we're going to go ahead and take a very brief commercial, non-commercial break. When we come back, folks, we're going to have some key excerpts here from the Democrats' 2024 autopsy report of why Kamala Harris lost the election, and you're going to hear a bunch of things. Now, this is directly from their report now. You're going to hear a bunch of things that are going to sound frighteningly familiar. Stick with us. This is the Black Channel.
Be the teacher, knowledge on the block. Got the kids learning, minds open like a lock. Books and skills from the east to the west. Bringing education, yeah, we're simply the best. Classes on fire, brains burning with desire. Innovation driving like a tire through the mire. Math, science, history, we got the whole range. Kids hitting new heights, teachers making a change. Just to be the teacher, stacking up the grades. Future bright shining, no need for no shades. Got the youth thriving, moving up the ladder. Smart and sharp, brains growing fatter. Lessons so lit, yeah, they stay in a blaze. Every mind sharp like a sword in the haze. Mr. B in the house breaking knowledge chains. Education kingpin, we ripping the games. Used to be the teacher.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Body Butter. With skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the anchor man of the New Black Media, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening as we are discussing the Democrats' autopsy report from the 2024 debacle of an election, presidential election. And I want to go into some of these parts here. Now, it goes through a PDF player from CNN. So it's a little bit wonky there how it plays and stuff, and you might not be able to read what's on the screen there. That's okay. That's all right. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of that for you. I'm going to start here at the bottom where it says, "It's the future, stupid." It's from page 17. It had 192 pages, so you know I put in work. It's the future, stupid. The sad truth is Democrats have lost ground at every level, from inconsistent messaging and improper planning, even as the policies the party advances continue to earn voter support at the ballot box. Ballot measures for Medicaid expansion, nonpartisan redistricting, wage increases. So they're letting you know here that as far as they're concerned, the problem isn't what they're doing. The problem has been the execution of it, but it's not what they stand for. That's the problem. So they're going on with this list of things. You heard what they're talking about there. Family leave, reproductive freedom have passed in states where Democrats remain locked out of statewide offices. Nothing about us, people. You heard all the stuff they just listed there. They didn't list anything about us. Just thought I'd point that out. Just thought I would point that out since they're naming all the things they're breaking their arms, patting themselves on the back for. It's the future, stupid. So what they think here is that this divergence means the party and our candidates have lost the confidence and trust of voters in the face of misinformation and disinformation. Yeah, folks, this is where they're at. So I guess we've gone beyond the Russian bots thing. So they're telling you the issue is disinformation and misinformation. So that's what they're telling you is the issue here, disinformation and misinformation. Our candidates are proven incapable of projecting strength, unity, and leadership, and voters have drifted away. Well, let me tell you, when Barack Obama sits up there and Eric Holder tells us we can't do anything to George Zimmerman. Now, yo black ass, if you're a rapper, we can indict you whenever we want to. We can't do anything about George Zimmerman, Daniel Pantaleo. We can't do anything about them. Oh, well. Yeah, do you think that makes you look like you're incapable of projecting strength, unity, leadership? Do you think that made you look like that? This wasn't about one election. Kamala Harris got the receipt for all the previous failures. When she tried to run the same playbook, she got the receipts for all those original failures. She got the bill. It says that indeed, many of our critical Democratic wins can be attributed to negative partisanship, where Republicans have nominated deeply flawed candidates, and we have been able to convince some Republicans and most independents to support Democrats in those contests. So they talked about some other elections there. They talked about some other ones, but even still, I'm making the point here that you're not quite getting it, or at least you're putting a positive spin on it to the extent that you can, I guess. I guess you can try that. I'm just not sure if that's where you want to hitch your wagon to. Now, I'm going to skip forward to page number 21. And in particular, they're talking about their battleground state outcomes. And whoever it was who was making notes on this thing, I'm not going to read the notes that they put on these things here. I want to read for you from what the report said. Battleground state outcomes. On election night, the world watched the blue wall crumble to return Donald Trump to the White House. States which had consistently and reliably voted for Democratic candidates, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, voted for Trump, along with Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia, which had all gone to Biden in the previous election. Every swing state and district Democrats focused on holding on to all swung right, allowing Donald Trump to become the first Republican presidential candidate to win the popular vote since George W. Bush in 2004. Even in the midst of this fundamental shift in the electoral map, there are key takeaways Democrats should consider as they invest in the majority party strategy. The first is, despite winning the popular vote, Trump won the election by a little more than 2 million votes in the popular vote, meaning the election was swayed by 0.15% of the votes cast across the country in the election. You can grope at straws like that if you want to, dude, but you are missing the forest for the tree. So trying to minimize what happened for a man who shouldn't have been able to get 30% of the vote, that's the part you're missing. Donald Trump shouldn't have been able to get 30% of the vote. The country had already rejected him once. So you're sitting up here trying to minimize this, and in reality, he never should have gotten 30% of the vote. It should have just been Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh with their grandmama at the polls and everybody else laughing at him. And that isn't what happened. The second, it goes on to say, is the margin of defeat for Kamala Harris was among the smallest in American history.
What?
Yeah, folks. Yeah. Yeah, these are the lessons that they're that they were learning from this. This is the lessons they're taking away. In case you were wondering what they got from it, these are the lessons that they were learning from it. They named a bunch of states there and stuff, and yeah, I mean, if that's going to make you feel better, if that'll make you feel better, particularly in some of these other places here, I'm going to skip forward here to page number 23. They talk about for North Carolina governor, when the results came in, Stein had 54% of the vote, and that Robinson guy, that Mark Robinson, North Carolina and South Carolina, you know, between Mark Robinson and what was her name? Oh, she's Sears. Between Mark Robinson and that Sears woman, you know, and like I say, they marched the coons out, boy. They marched their major coons out there. That was what you were running against. You weren't running against really solid folk. You were running against, damn me, a clown show. Yeah, Winsome Sears. You were running against a damn clown show. That's what the hell you got. Well, this is what they learned from it, folks. It said, what happened? Mark Robinson's campaign imploded, running significantly behind Trump statewide. His inflammatory statements about LGBTQ individuals, the Holocaust, and slavery made him toxic. Approximately 6.8% of North Carolina voters cast their ballots for Trump Stein, mostly college-educated suburban women over 45. But Stein didn't just win by default. He addressed the exact problems Harris did not. Men won 51% versus Harris's 40%. Stein's substantially better performance with men suggests his campaign found ways to connect with male voters. His gender gap was notably narrower than Harris's. The national campaign appeared to struggle with male voter engagement. Stein's results suggest a different approach is needed. Rural voters. Stein 38% versus Harris 29%. Harris essentially cratered in rural North Carolina. The in-state Stein team understood the path to victory lay in limiting margins in rural North Carolina. The seemingly nonpartisan focus on Stein's record as Attorney General leveraged his record on fentanyl and consumer protection credentials as Attorney General. Folks, what we're saying here is tangibles. He can name exactly what he did. He didn't go to them with gobbledygook talk. He went to them for exactly what they've done and what they got done for the people they got it done for. The fentanyl epidemic is white folk. Hey, he's talking about what he's doing for white folk. With a Democrat Party that refuses to say the word black. Just keep that in mind. A Democrat Party that considers saying black a dirty word unless they need something. These other folks will scream white from the mountaintop, but the Democrat Party, your most loyal voters, all of a sudden, you don't know their names. And, oh, we can't say black. You know, we're trying to win the election. Okay, we'll see how well you can win it without us. White non-college voters, Stein 50% versus Harris 43%. Harris's focus on college-educated suburbs widened the education gap. Stein's better performance with non-college voters suggests more balanced messaging. New voters, Stein 56 versus Harris 48. You get the idea here. You're just getting your ass broken across the board. You're getting it broken across the board here. That's what the hell happened. Now it goes on to say here the geographic formula. In urban cores, Stein was 5% versus Harris, maintained enthusiasm. In the suburbs, Stein was 4%, won moderates. In rural North Carolina, Stein was 9%, limited losses. Democrats need to hit on all three to win statewide races in North Carolina and in most states. Harris underperformed in rural areas and struggled in the suburbs. Metro area performance. Oh, hell, here we go. Your so-called inner cities and things. Metro area performance. Stein's best performance relative to Harris was in the major metro areas. So do you see all that talk? They talk about rural areas, and then they're saying that, by the way, and his best performance wasn't even there. The best performance was actually in the metro areas. Raleigh, black. Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, black. Durham, black. Greensboro, mixed black. Okay. Those are your urban centers. Those are your black vote right there. Now they're admitting to you when you see that breakdown. It's like, oh, no. This wasn't just a rural area thing. Barack Obama, we saw that playbook before of benign neglect and trick bag language. When Kamala Harris did the same thing, enough of the vote softened. She didn't lose all of it. She didn't lose most of it, but enough of it softened that you couldn't win the state. Now they go on here to talk about the Robinson effect. Robinson ran dramatically behind Trump statewide, particularly in college-educated suburbs. In precincts where Robinson performed worse relative to Trump, Stein significantly overperformed Harris. Voters were willing to split their tickets for governor when faced with unacceptable choices, but voters returned to their partisan corners at the presidential election. The lesson: Robinson imploded, but Stein's results suggest a fundamentally different campaign approach to address the weaknesses the national campaign struggled to fix. Stronger performance among male voters, improved competitiveness in rural areas, early messaging, and more balanced coalition building. Let me explain one thing to y'all right here. The Democrats have already shot themselves in the foot multiple times right here, because out there in the Carolinas, you got a whole bunch of illegal aliens all over the place now, and those folk are going to vote Republican. What? So, by the way, you've welcomed in all those illegal aliens out there and whatnot. They're all over the damn place out in the Carolinas, and especially in the rural areas. They're all over the place, especially in the rural areas, and yeah, they're going to vote Republican. Now that they done got their feet up under them and whatnot, you know how the pattern goes. Soon as they get their economics solidified, they start voting Republican. So, yeah, don't worry. You haven't heard the last of this one. You have not heard the last of this one. Oh, there will be more. Now, while we're at it here, why don't we go ahead and take a brief look at some key demographics? Let's just take a look at some key demographics here, because that can be kind of important. Let's just take a look at some key demographics, because they're not going to like this, especially when I give some details about it. They're not going to like this, and there's some folks who are going to be wondering, by the way, why didn't these people talk about this before? Why are we just now getting around and talking about it now? Says key demographic patterns. The male voter problem. Every down ballot Democrat did better among men than Kamala Harris did. Stein, Jackson, Ferguson, Craig. Even Craig, who lost in New Hampshire, still did 5 points better with men. This suggests the national campaign has a specific problem with male voters. Stein outperformed the rest of the candidates because of the specific weaknesses and rejection of Robinson. Young men of color, Harris's steepest losses. If you think the gender war is a winning issue, if you think You Go Girl is a winning platform, you would really want to seriously reconsider your delusion. Kamala Harris ran the abortion campaign. How'd that work out? Young men of color. Harris's steepest losses. Harris saw dramatic drops in support among young Latino men. What about the black, Asian brown coalition? And young black men compared to Biden's 2020 performance. However, Stein recovered significant ground with both groups, suggesting his campaign found effective ways to reach those voters. Stein's results suggest it's possible to win women and compete with men with the right approach. Well, maybe it's because he wasn't running a feminist campaign and that you all telling yourselves that all the males in America are really closet feminists. Maybe this sick idea you've had that 3 generations of boys raised by single mothers have turned them into closet feminists and that they will submit to you. Maybe you need to rethink that little bit of delusion. Education polarization. White voters showed substantial education gaps across all races, with college-educated white supporting Democrats significantly more than non-college voters. But Stein hit 50% with white non-college voters versus Harris's 43%. This is a math problem. Democrats can't lose non-college voters by massive margins and make it up elsewhere when non-college voters are a majority of the electorate. Let me say this part one more time here, folks. Democrats can't lose non-college voters by massive margins and make it up elsewhere when non-college voters are the majority of the electorate. Are you listening to me, Miss Etienne? With all due respect, I'm going to have all my red bones and high yellow chicks sitting up here sending me hate emails again. What? Jason, you're always beating up on us. Okay. I'm going to ease up here in just a minute. Let me finish this work right quick. I'm going to ease up in just a minute. Y'all like getting attention. I'm giving you a little bit of attention tonight. I'm gonna ease up the pressure on you in just a minute. Let me finish doing this work right quick. But yes, ma'am. You see, when you're running around talking about, well, black women, they go to college and this, that, and the other, and I'm like, have you considered the fact that that's not the rule? Have you realized that you've got these constituencies and these regions or states or the whole country, when you're dealing with the electorate, you're not really dealing with going after a college-educated vote like that. So while you can sit up here and ski-wee and AK, and I mean, you can do that and that's cool and everything, but if you're telling yourself that that is what is representative, let's be clear, when we talk about black women, non-college educated black women are the rule. So you're focusing on a small minority because you sit up here and get your jollies talking about that. That's cool and everything, but that's not even the majority among black women. You're not even talking about the majority among black women, certainly not black women voters. So you can break your arm patting yourself on the back about this and pretending that that's representative of the masses because that's what shows up at your cocktail parties or your sorority sister get-togethers. You can tell yourself that, but that doesn't make it real. Harris's focus on college-educated suburbs left gaps at unwinnable levels. Education polarization appeared mostly among white voters. Black voters show minimal education gaps. Black voters show minimal education gaps. So this focus on that stuff there, you all are bragging about stuff that doesn't even matter to the electorate. Y'all keep saying those slogans. I'm just saying you're out of touch when you focus on those things. You are out of touch. Most black men ain't members of a fraternity. We know the Qs, we know the Kappas. That's cool and all, but they are not representative of black men as a group. They are a small segment that does not represent the group. They represent themselves, and too often we can't even find them representing themselves. So you all are sitting up here in your little cliques. You're sitting up in your little cliques and your little social circles and your little Mason clubs and whatnot, telling yourself, telling yourselves you're some type of power brokers or something. But the real problem is you're out of touch. You don't represent the masses. You don't represent the people. You don't represent the street. Y'all are out of touch, man. You're out of touch. You don't get it because you don't want to get it. You want to believe you're in some ivory tower looking down on the rest of us, and you don't represent the street, man. You don't represent the people. And very clearly, it appears you have contempt for the people. Well, how's that working out for you? Black voters show minimal education gaps. Latino voters show moderate gaps. This will be a problem going forward, by the way, for the Latino vote, including your so-called Afro-Latinos who wish they could identify as anything other than black, so we'll let them do that. But by the way, that will be an issue right there. That is fertile ground for the white supremacist feminist agenda, driving the wedge between the women and the men. That right there is fertile ground, because you see, when white folk catch a cold, black folk catch pneumonia. They use that little strategy in black society. This will work very well among Latinos. Hey, you're not like those Latino men, ladies. You are, quote, more educated, as if that means a damn thing. Y'all have been to school. Well, that means you're more like us white, more like us Anglos. So just remember, they've already got the strategy for how they're going to divide and conquer on you. While white voters show the most significant splits, irregular voters, the biggest miss. Irregular voters are disproportionately voters of color. Irregular voters are disproportionately voters of color, younger, non-college, male, and urban. Folks, that's describing black men right there. Did you get that? They're describing black men without saying black men. This report ain't said a damn word about Asians, Native Americans, Indians, Arabs. They just describe black males, folks. Voters of color, young, non-college males, and urban. That's black men. Irregular voters? Hell yeah, you got to motivate us. We don't just show up at the voting place like we're getting our hair did, and women show up and go get their nails done. What? For the men, it's like, oh no, I got to have an agenda. We got to have an agenda to get there. The voters Democrats need, and where the Harris campaign struggled the most. Josh Stein won them decisively, suggesting his campaign treated them as persuasion targets and engaged them throughout the campaign. It helped to run against a self-described Nazi most voters would never support, but Stein converted where Harris did not. The national campaign appears to have assumed irregular voters would turn out and vote Democrat at Obama-era rates. Did I call it, or did I call it? That they just assume that, well, you all will complain and whine, but when election day rolls around, you will do what the baby boomers did in the civil rights generation, hold your nose and come pull the lever. Because Roland Martin, you know, the wonderful, insightful political consultant Roland Martin said that that's what was going to happen, remember? Yes, people, the ever-prescient, insightful political strategist and consultant Roland Martin said that that's what was going to occur. Yeah, it didn't happen. Not even close. But as I've told you all, this is their strategy, that they don't have to do anything differently, that they'll pay some shills on television, on cable TV, Simone Sanders, Roland Martin, Tom Joyner, whoever, and that they will simply tell us, well, it's time to go vote. So, yeah, the Democrats is bastards, but you know, we gotta stop Trump. So it doesn't matter what we don't get. We sure don't want Trump, does we? So on election day, vax that ass up and twerk your way to the poll and whatever else you got to do. And stop worrying about what you're not getting. And they were assuming that the irregulars would just turn out and vote. And not just vote, but that we would be in love with her. Oh, it's going to be Obama all over again. She got that final receipt for Obama's ass whooping. It says both assumptions proved wrong. Both assumptions proved wrong. They also talk here about ticket splitting. So this is what you do when you ain't happy with nothing that's going on. This is what you do when you're not happy with a damn thing. And they were good for that. So I wanted you all to see that, by the way, you knew what the hell they were doing. By the way, they're not dumb about that. They got it. They know. They know. Now I'm going to skip forward here to page 36. Because this is about where organizing efforts fell short. I know I'm skipping through this thing kind of fast here, but I'm not going to bore you all to death with some of this other stuff here. But you don't have to read the whole report. I read it for you. Page 36, where organizing efforts fell short in 2024. Despite significant resource investments. You mean for the LGBT chicks wearing the fluorescent blue outfits? That investment? Democratic organizing faced unprecedented challenges. The leadership voter gap. Even with strong organizational endorsements, you mean Barack Obama, Democratic candidates struggled with rank and file voters. Who have we been focused on here on the Black Channel since day one? Increasingly willing to split their tickets. In Pennsylvania, voters who supported Democratic priorities on workplace issues still voted for Trump by significant margins. The credibility gap between organizational leadership and everyday voters has widened. You're out of touch. All you college-educated elites telling yourselves that you're the smartest people in the room and the rest of us just need to bow to your academic wisdom. As I said, you're out of touch. And you can lie to the Democrat establishment and tell them that you still got your finger on the pulse, but when election day rolls around, the emperor ain't got no drawers on. Late engagement. Many organizing efforts didn't begin serious mobilization until Labor Day or later, ceding the summer months to Republican messaging. Resources were concentrated in presidential swing states, leaving voters in states like Ohio feeling ignored. Don't worry, you got the Haitians to vote for you there.
And deal with it, nigga.
You ain't got to worry about Ohio. Remember, you brought in all those Haitians, Joe Biden, remember? Yeah, you got Ohio locked up. Ohio is locked down, dude. The Haitians will take care of that for you in Ohio. They don't feel ignored. They were all out there dancing while they were frying up, people's pets. Ohio didn't feel ignored, so yeah, there was that. Messaging misalignment. National Democratic messaging under the White House's stewardship created tensions with key constituencies. Climate change and green energy transition messaging created anxiety among workers in traditional industries worried about job losses. The focus on social issues over economic issues alienated socially conservative voters who prioritize kitchen table concerns. That's every damn body. The Bidenomics framing emphasized macro statistics rather than the micro realities voters experience daily, and specifically tied President Biden by name to actual economic anxiety. Republican inroads with working class voters. Trump's campaign targeted working class households with economic populist messaging. His anti-worker record. Working class men, particularly in manufacturing and construction, saw Trump as more aligned with their cultural values than Democratic candidates. Oh boy. Organizational decline in key states. Shrinking investment in industrial states has reduced Democrats' organizing capacity. Ohio's organizing density dropped significantly as manufacturing declined. Younger members of organized groups show less partisan loyalty than previous generations. You mean the baby boomers and the civil rights generation who gutted the industrial base? They all got their damn pensions, and they got their pensions, and then after they got their pensions, they allowed the companies to outsource all the jobs so the kids don't have anything. And that's who you were counting on to keep you perpetually in power in these places. A constituency that is essentially gone, or they're no longer of any effect. That's what you ended up with. But don't worry, Roland Martin said that's exactly where you need to be, remember? Roland said that's where you need to go. They'll save the day. They'll save the day. Now, this next part I want to read is a little bit long. A lot of you may wonder what it's got to do with us here, but follow me. Stick around here for a few moments here. I want you to hear this part. It says here, the 2024 election revealed a seismic shift in Latino voting patterns Democrats cannot ignore. Trump improved his performance with Latino voters by double digits compared to 2020, particularly among Latino men. This shift was most pronounced in Nevada. Trump won Latino men by 12 points, a complete reversal from 2020. Rosen, I think they're talking about ran in Nevada. Rosen's strong community organizing and bilingual outreach helped her maintain better Latino support than Harris, but the erosion is undeniable. Arizona, Trump cut Democrats' margin with Latino voters from 24 points in 2020 to 8 points in 2024. Gallego's personal story and consistent presence in Latino communities helped him buck this trend, winning Latinos by approximately 20 points, 12 points better than Harris. Gallego's working class background, military service, and authentic community connections gave him credibility with Latinos the national campaign could not replicate. Yes, because did you notice that part right there, y'all? Working class background, that's not Kamala Harris. Military service, okay. And authentic community connections. I know Kamala Harris did not like this part. Authentic community connections. Because we all know her community connections. Phife Dawg and Tupac when she was in college back in the early 80s.
What? Damn! Oh, please.
You know, she wears Converse. Her authentic community connections. As a child in her Brahma Indian household, as a child, she remembers celebrating Kwanzaa as a child along with all of her other Brahmin Indian relatives. Authentic community connections. Laying up under Willie Brown and Montel Williams does not qualify as an authentic. Okay, never mind. Yeah. Right. Okay, I just wanted to go ahead and point that out. Yeah, authentic community connections. So the guy writing this, they've already kicked him out, by the way. They already let him go. In case you all didn't know, the guy who wrote this report, they've already let him go. Yeah, it's probably because Kamala read this. She's like, oh, hell no. Either he goes or I go. Says here, Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, what's left of the Rio Grande, continued its rightward shift. Oh, so much for Latinos. That's going to be your new Democrat voters, y'all, remember? The Latinos are going to be your new Democrat voters. Starr County, which is 97% Hispanic, flipped to Trump, voting Republican for president for the first time since 1892.
Damn!
Yeah, don't worry, folks. They see themselves as black. They're gonna vote black because remember, the Latinos are black like us. The Pan-Africanists have spent 4 decades telling us, oh, those are really black folk. They know they black. They know they black like us. Yeah, remember the Pan-Africanists have been browbeating us for decades to tell us that the Mexicans and the Venezuelans and the Puerto Ricans and the Colombians and all these folks, those are all black folk. They're black like us. They know they're black like us because some of you get some interracial sexual access, and they know they're black like us. Yeah, how the hell is that working out for you? Democrats can no longer assume Latino voters, especially younger Latino men, are a reliable part of their base. People, I've been saying this now going on 2 damn decades. There's a whole reason why we in the new black media pointed out, hey, Latino is not a race. And they tried to tell you that they're minorities like us. No, they are not. The majority of them see themselves as Latino as an ethnicity, but that they are white people. Which is why I spent the better part of two decades banging that through y'all's head. Do not listen to these people in the white supremacist media. Do not listen to their shills in the old black media. When you see Latino, the reason why we pointed out that there's Afro Latinos and white Latinos, because no, the white Latinos, they see themselves as white. They just see the Latino part as an incidental characteristic, but that they are white. And before the 1970 census, they were. And that's why we have to keep reminding you, don't let these people confuse you, because you'll be walking around out here stupid as hell. You found some chick from Guadalajara to get into bed in Texas. Congratulations for you. Okay, when she hops out the bed after y'all make each other's toes curl, in the words of Neely Fuller, she's not confused. When she goes back to La Raza and talks to her people, they're not confused. They know she laying up with a black dude, but they want to know what the hell she gonna do on election day. So she's laying up with you, but voting for Ted Cruz. So you two can have an argument about this later. And she's like, don't worry, I'm gonna blind him with sex here again in a minute. So you hopping out the damn bed talking about, and she black now, and she's going to the go. Let me pull this damn lever for Ted Cruz. Let me do that. The family's like, hey, we don't give a damn where you get the anchor baby from. We don't really give a damn who gave the anchor baby, but you gonna vote this over here, right? Now, this is how you end up with your damn kids sitting up here jumping up and they're defending Charlie Kirk and George Zimmerman and Kyle Rittenhouse and Donald damn E. Trump and every damn thing else going on there. That stuff's not accidental, so you hopping out the bed confused. They're not confused along with you. There's the issue. They're not sitting there confused with you. Says here, Democrats can no longer assume Latino voters, especially younger Latino men, are a reliable part of their base. The party needs a complete rethink of its Latino outreach strategy. You need a complete rethink of your Latino illegal alien replacement strategy.
And deal with it.
You need to rethink your replacement strategy. You need to rethink that, dude. The party needs a complete rethink of its Latino outreach strategy, moving beyond traditional approaches like Spanish language and late cycle surrogates. Successful candidates like Gallego and Rosen showed how year-round presence, listen to this carefully, folks. Successful candidates like Gallego and Rosen showed how year-round presence, economic messaging, and addressing cost of living concerns resonate more than identity politics. He put this in bold letters. Organizations with significant Latino membership, particularly service sector labor groups, need to be central and partners in this recalibration as they maintain the year-round infrastructure and community credibility to effectively reach these voters. Folks, do you see the way they're talking about Latinos here? Now, when they're talking about Latinos, they're not coming with the, you need to just vote for us because we showed up. What they're saying about Latinos here is exactly what they should be saying about us. So what this tends to indicate is they still think, well, the black vote, we got that locked down mentally and emotionally. We still have them imprisoned. The Latinos, however, you have to actually offer them something. If you want to get that Latino vote away from the Republicans, you're going to have to actually offer them something. Yeah, you need to do that. They're going to talk here about working class coalitions. Both John Tester and Sherrod Brown had a history of strong support from working people. They stayed consistent in their messaging, avoided getting mired in the 80-20 issues, and maintained working class credibility through constant presence at community events and genuine relationships built over decades. Ohio's manufacturing communities voted for Obama in 2008 and 2012, but have been economically hollowed out. Well, yeah, because your billionaire donors, both domestic and abroad, have hollowed these damn things out and decisively shifted to Republicans. Good manufacturing jobs disappearing and being replaced by lower wage service work has fundamentally altered the political landscape. Brown and Tester could not overcome the gravity of double-digit Harris losses. Okay, but they also helped vote for this stuff. So you end up with an Afrikaner like Elon Musk and Israelis, no disrespect, but Israelis, Larry Ellison, Miriam Adelson buying up in Louisiana. They bought up in Richland Parish. For those of you who don't know, they got a data center that's big as Manhattan.
Nigga, what?
In Richland Parish in Louisiana, they have bought a piece of land the size of Manhattan. The size of Manhattan, New York. And they are building the largest data center you ever saw on that thing. Now imagine if you were in New York City and you woke up one day and Manhattan was just one giant damn me Judge Dredd lighted city just humming at you. By the way, folks, that thing is well under construction right now. That's not speculative. That damn thing is under construction right now. They already cleared the ground and everything. That thing in Richland Parish, they're going to be done with that by this year. That thing is going to be finished. How in the hell do you build something the size of Manhattan indoors? In any case, by the way, that thing's going to be done this year. Just letting you know. Well, there's your manufacturing base. A thing the size of Manhattan, and it's going to have, what, 5 employees? It's just a bunch of servers. It'll just be 5 employees, the size of Manhattan, and 10 or 20 folk going to be working there. Now come vote Democrat. When you sold out the future and sold out the inheritance to the young, yeah, come vote Democrat. And they're not worried about economics, people. They got real issues to worry about, like abortion. It says here that Brown hit Moreno hard on abortion in the final weeks, noting how 57% of Ohio voters had just enshrined abortion rights in the state constitution. Slotkin ran a multi-million-dollar ad campaign hammering Rogers on his abortion voting record. This issue allowed Democrats to peel off suburban women and moderate Republicans who might have been open to voting Republican down ballot. Okay, and how did that help you? How did that help Kamala Harris? She was banging on about abortion. How'd that work out for her? Congratulations. You have your abortions. You don't have a job. You don't have a house. Okay, you got your abortions, though. Okay, glad we got that. Good thing we took care of that part, huh? We're going to skip forward here again. Let's get to page number 59. It says here that all screens are not the same. Effective modern media campaigns start with understanding each platform where an ad is placed is different. So Roland was whining about this earlier here. Let's see what their report says that they learned from this. So, effective modern media campaigns start with understanding each platform where an ad is placed is different, and so is every device. A phone is different than a tablet or a computer, which is different from a television. A social media or digital platform is different than a connected TV experience, print outlet, radio, or a television station or network. A common critique surfaced during interviews is how Democratic media consultants seem to craft content for traditional media, broadcast television and broadcast radio, and then try to shoehorn the content into digital spaces. They cut a 30-second TV spot and try to use it on digital platforms, or fashion cut downs to 15 seconds, 12 seconds, or 6 seconds to fit the ad specs of different platforms. Critics, most of them digital practitioners, see this approach as uninspiring and lacking imagination. While this critique paints Democrats' media strategists with a broad brush, innovation is a choice. Understanding how different channels, different tools, and different platforms work is crucial to reaching the generation of digital native voters who will decide elections. For Democrats to make the case for which party has these voters' best interests at heart, they first have to be able to reach the voters in both delivery and channel fit. Understanding the way in which an overproduced video creates dissonance with a voter based on where they are experiencing it in the media journey is an important step for Democratic candidates and incumbents who wish to remain relevant. It is difficult to always be on and to tailor media to audience and platforms, but it is required in this modern media environment. Democrats need to be everywhere to win anywhere. Across platforms, channels, and media formats. There must be a commitment and openness to experimentation about where people are living, scrolling, reacting, and amplifying content, and then to effectively inhabit those spaces. People, the Democratic Party has abandoned the new black media. The Democratic Party thinks you're going to make up that lost ground with TV ads and radio ads to the Tom Joyner geriatrics out there. In the internet era, Donald Trump is fit to order. He's made to order. You know why? Because Donald Trump knows that in order to have people's attention online, there has to be debate. There has to be argument. You don't get to just put up a one-way message. People want to see back and forth because television is made to be phony. The internet is assumed to be more authentic, more genuine. Donald Trump puts himself up to be questioned by anybody and everybody. His answers aren't made to please everyone. He understood this. Kamala Harris tried to avoid it because she's a phony, and the people backing her are phonies, and her masters in the Democrat Party are all phonies. And that's why they don't play online. You can't sit up here and have D.L. Hughley prop you up like a sock puppet and think that's gonna fix it. You need to get your ass out here and face some of these questions from places that people don't expect to see you in. Nobody thought Trump was going to be talking to Theo Vaughn, or did he talk to Patrick Bet-David? They didn't think he was going to. The Breakfast Club, the black journalists, National Association of Black Journalists, Donald Trump understood that talking to them was going to go viral. He understood talking to them was going to get eyeballs, that he was going to suck all the oxygen out of the room, whether you agreed with him or not. He understood talking to the National Association of Black Journalists was going to make him the trending topic. He would be the only one discussing. And what he realized is that if I'm the only person they're talking about, then my competition becomes non-existent. You didn't even know what Kamala Harris did that week. That's the problem. Trump understood this. His competition didn't. And they still don't now. So instead of going places where they can make an impact, and going places where they can make a name, and going places where people don't expect to see them, and knowing that what they're hearing is authentic, which is what the internet expects. The internet expects back and forth. The internet expects debate. The internet expects controversy. Kamala Harris did her best to avoid all of those. It says here the smartphone has set the stage for social media and digital platforms to take on lives of their own, attracting viewers and voters who are in each space looking for different and unique experiences. Each of these platforms and many others have different types of audiences seeking different experiences and serve content to people who are either political or non-political. It is up to Democrats to engage them wherever they are, now and in the future. User behavior is not tied to partisan choices. Interests change with the moment and usage of platform. It changes on how people feel they fit. Audiences change their minds and habits all the time and will flow to anything with a positive value proposition or user experience. Democrats need better tools to identify and map potential voters against their preferred platforms and their media consumption habits. And then listen. Oh, that's going to be a hard one for the Democrats to do because they don't want to listen. They want to tell you, well, here, just eat the slop and vote. Only then can Democrats inhabit the habits of voters in effective ways to build support. The Democratic National Committee has convened leaders from the technology and data sectors to understand the combination of technical and human resources needed to identify the most effective forms of voter listening and engagement. This work will help Democratic incumbents and candidates better connect with voters and run more responsive campaigns. Negative messaging. I want to read this part and then I'm going to be done with it. Voting is a choice, and negative messaging needs to be part of the story as choices are framed for voters. At times, it seems Democrats are trying to win arguments while Republicans are focused on winning elections. Democrats operate in an ecosystem defined by reason, even in cycles when the election is defined by rage. This highlights a fundamental and necessary truth. A brutal and efficiently delivered message will frame the choice for voters and help actually win the election. When voters are not enraptured by the policy agendas advanced by candidates, the campaign's motivations and intentions are irrelevant. Democrats need to meet the voters where they are and make an aggressive, contrarian case against their opponents. The respective evaluation of Donald Trump's presidency was too positive, given the ability of right-wing entities to slash and smear the vice president. It was essential to prosecute a more effective case as to why Trump should have been disqualified from ever again taking office. The grounds were there, but the messaging did not make the case. Because you turned the messaging over to incompetent operatives. Even if you're on the right track, you'll just get run over if you sit there. You turned it over to incompetent operatives. People who have access to your emails like Donna Brazile, they have access to Hillary Clinton. You think they're safe because they are. Roland Martin is a safe Negro for the Democrats, but he's also incompetent and ineffective. But he's the only one that you're speaking to. He's the only one you're going to get answers from. So he's the only one you're listening to, even though he's dead wrong and clueless. Nobody thought that they were going to get the ground level truth from Kamala Harris when she came and spoke to Roland Martin. Nobody thought that this is going to be a great interview that's going to reveal for us who we're really voting for. Everyone thought that when they heard The Breakfast Club. Nobody thought that Kamala Harris talking to Roland Martin was anything other than a Democrat-sponsored photo op. Nobody thought that they were going to find out what kind of candidate she was and get down to the brass tacks and the real issues. Nobody thought that. And that's why it was just plain stupid to go talk to him. Because it wasn't going to move the needle. There was no authenticity. No one thought there was going to be a curveball. No one thought there was going to be anything unexpected. You already knew how it was going to go, and that's exactly what it did. And she crashed and burned. She needed to come across as authentic, There were serious questions about her motives, serious questions about her sincerity, serious questions about her positions. And instead of going to a place where those questions would have had authenticity and believability and credibility, she just went to the same old song and dance. I'm going to go on The View. Let me go talk to the rejects from the old cable TV. Hello, Joy Reid. Let me go talk to Roland Martin. He didn't go anywhere that would have mattered. As a matter of fact, she avoided them. Remember, she didn't want to go talk to Joe Rogan. The places where she needed to be, she didn't want to go talk to them. The only folks she wanted to go talk to were people who already supported her. Donald Trump said, I'm going to go talk to anybody, anywhere, anytime. Kamala Harris said, I only want to talk to people who are already going to vote for me. That's what this report did not tell you about the media. Kamala Harris chose to only speak to outlets that already supported her and to ignore anybody who didn't. Even though the numbers and the math were clearly showing that this would be disastrous because you're hemorrhaging support everywhere. This is what happens when you have your cocktail circuits. All the cute light-skinned chicks get together and they get patted on the back and everybody likes to see them. That's cool. Nothing wrong with that. The problem is they lie to y'all. They lie to you and tell you have more credibility, that you have more acceptance. They don't tell you the truth about how bad you really are underwater. And by the time you realize what the hell's really going on, it's all over but the shouting. And that's what's happening. They're not honest with you all about where you really stand. And the time to have that conversation is years in advance, not days in advance. And this is where you really are. Why did they not have this conversation before? Well, they'll be having it again because this is just going to be a precursor of 2028. Please understand that. This is going to be a precursor for 2028 because the Democrats haven't learned anything. They are already showing you that they're preparing to just run the same old playbook. Vote for us because, well, we're not Trump. Don't bother asking us what we did or didn't do. You need to just vote for us because we're not Trump. Stop demanding things. The real big issue is abortion, not socioeconomics. Take a look at even the places where they claim they won people. They were not running on the issues we're talking about. All they were running on is, hey, we're not Trump. Vote for me because I'm not Trump. Isn't Trump screwing up bad? Not because any of the issues you named. That's not accidental. They know exactly what they're doing. And they're going to rerun the same playbook all over again, hoping for a different result. So that's why I told you all when you said, well, what's going to happen after they lose in 2024? I said, that's not going to change anything. They're going to have to lose for at least 2, maybe 3 cycles before they finally abandon this benign neglect strategy. They're going to have to lose 2 or 3 in a row. Losing one will not be enough. They're going to have to lose 2 or 3 in a row. That's the bad news. The good news is that's actually very likely to happen here. What? I need you all to understand the Democrats are not guaranteed to have good fortunes in the midterms here in 2026. Anyone who tells you that the country is going to be hating Donald Trump more than the Democrats in 2026 in time for the election, that's an overly rosy scenario. That's an overly rosy scenario. The Democrats have won elections they were supposed to win. But ask Thomas Massie and some of those other folk about how strong Trump's grip on the party of the Republicans is. So please do not tell yourselves that 2026, oh, everybody hates Trump and the Democrats are a shoo-in. There's a lot of wiggle room in there. There's a lot of latitude. The Democrats would love for you to think it's inevitable that everybody's sick of them. Well, yeah, that's the story they want to sell. But is that actually real? Is that actually a real thing? Or is this yet again simply preparing you for the story they want to sell you on? Hey, you know you got to vote for us. You know that's the only real choice, right? I mean, it's just us. Can't let Trump win again. Don't you see how bad things are? Gas prices, wars in the Middle East. Can't let Trump win, right? Hey, we all understand that, don't we? Okay. So please do not be deceived. The autopsy report is out here, at least as much of it is out here, and they're showing you what they've learned from it. Let's see if we can get over on you again. Let's just see if we can get over on you again, but we're not changing anything. But what they have conceded is that everything we've been saying for 20 years, yeah, they know. They're just trying to figure out strategies to counter it. That's all. They heard everything. They know our agenda. They know tangibles. They know They know the black vote, particularly the black male vote. They know where they're losing. They know where they're hurting at. And all they're letting you know is that, and we're trying to figure out how to counter you. We are not trying to figure out how to listen to you. We just want to know, what do we got to do to counter you? We're putting our heads together and formulating and strategizing for that. So do not be surprised if 2024 repeats itself. Don't be surprised about that at all. Let me give a shout out here to my man, Mr. Richburg.
I told you all that I was the greatest of all time. I told you today I'm still the greatest of all time.
Thank you very much for your support tonight here, brother. We appreciate that here. Also to Ambrosia, thank you very much for your support here, nice sister as well. I know y'all could be doing anything else tonight, but to be here, we appreciate that. To my man, Andrew L., and to everyone who has joined us here on tonight's program, we appreciate that. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the haven of intelligent black thought. We do this every weekend, holidays, some days in between. So click that subscribe button, that notification button. Join us each and every time that we are here. If you haven't been to blackchannelfilms.com, check out our groundbreaking best-selling documentary work at blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to tonight's program, live or recorded. Thank you all for liking, subscribing, and sharing. You are now fully informed. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, black is the future, and the future is uncompromising.